there, I'm Betsy Rosenberg, and I'm coming to you from the United States of America, but taking you directly to Glasgow, where we have some incredible people on the ground, if you will, giving us different perspectives from where they are watching and participating. I'm speaking now to two activists who I can't wait to hear from. The first one is Melissa Jimenez Gomez Tagle, and Melissa is a graduate student living in Germany right now, and her friend is Luciana Verastegui, if I said that correctly. And Luciana, you are 19, Melissa, you are 29, so two very active, astute, aware young people. Very happy to have you here. You're both from Mexico. You're both in Scotland now. It must be a bit of a culture change there, although Melissa, I understand you've been in Germany studying, so maybe not too much of a culture shock, but just give us your overall impressions. You've been in Glasgow attending COP26. I imagine, given your ages, this is your first one. Tell us what your first impressions have been a week ago when you arrived, and maybe now a week into it, what you're sensing in terms of optimism, pessimism, what's happening inside the official proceedings versus outside where most of the action takes place, about midway through COP26. Thanks for joining us on Green TV. Very excited to have you both.
Of course. Thank you so much, Rossi, for this opportunity. And well, yes, this is actually our second COP.
Oh.
We were able to both attend COP in Madrid 2019. And well, we can now see the differences really between the process in 2019 versus 2021. We can say that transparency, it's been quite a deal. All because of these corona restrictions that have been going on. For us, it has been a little bit difficult to get more into the negotiations because of all these restrictions that are going on inside the venue of COP26. However, outside, we are seeing a lot of mobilization, lots of voices wanting to speak up, wanting to do some actions, to take action. We are realizing that despite of the fact that, yes, we have not been so keen into the venues, into getting into the negotiations, we are seeing more hope outside in the people, with the actions, with the calls, with the talks. But something that really is important that at least we have been trying to do is speak up inside COP. And that is why right now my colleague is going to tell you about the project that we wanted to expose inside COP, which has to do with oceans health and the ocean state. And therefore, yes, my friend Luciana, my colleague Luciana, will tell you a little bit more about it.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for having us. Actually, as my colleague said, it is really important in the term of accessibility. The topic of having accessibility to the negotiations has been really hard. And for example, it's just allowed 2 people or 3 people to go to the negotiations and to listen, also be part of it. So it's hard for the other people to also be part, for the observers, for the NGOs, and for the civil society to be part of the negotiation and to speak up. Regarding the topic of ocean, since the last COP25, it was called the Blue COP. And even though it was called the Blue COP, it was not taking consideration the topic of ocean and the way it should be. It was not taking as the responsibility, the topic of cooperation nor collaboration. And we cannot see the differences in this COP. So for example, in our delegation and other delegations as well, the topic of ocean and the blue carbon is not taken with taken seriously and the way it should be. And what we want to do is to, as Ocean's Voice, the network that I coordinate, is to show the 7 ocean principles from ocean literacy. That is the importance of the interconnection that exists between all the topics. We can say about human rights, we can say about gender, and the interconnection that exists with the ocean. So that's something that we want to show in this COP.
And how did you get so focused on oceans when most adults are just getting around to realizing that's a big part of the problem and where the solutions lie, at least many of them?
Well, it's a really interesting question because I get to work on the topic of ocean because I live in a coastal zone. So for me, it was really important to get more into depth into that topic. And for me, the topic of low carbon, that are mangroves, seagrass, for me was important because it was not taken in the conversation. So for me, actually, in the first COP, I can also be honest with you and tell you that the process and the methodology that the UNFCCC takes is really complex, has a lot of complexity. So for us to get involved, it was hard. But in this COP, I wanted to continue with the same topic and also representing my network that we also prepare a statement. So that's why we continue with the same issue and the same oceans topic.
And I would like to add with that, for example, coming from my perspective, I live in a state where we don't have an ocean. However, speaking from Mexico, since we are both from Mexico, we need to defend what our sovereignty is. And some of that sovereignty is about biodiversity. We have endemic species, from marine endemic species, which are highly endangered. For example, in the coast of the Gulf of California, we have the species Vaquita marina, which is a porpoise that it's being endangered since, I think, 2001. And it's being considered to be in the list of highly endangered species of animals. Moreover, I would like to add that the government of Mexico has not been doing enough and has not been working on defending these species. And it is a complex thing because here we see a lot of corruption, a lot of crime in between, and we would like to speak up and give a voice to the ones that cannot speak, such as the animals, such as the endangered species. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring up the issue of Vaquita marina, because it is just one species, but we need to protect it, or we need to avoid this to happen again with other species, since like Jane Goodall had said, we are all entwined, we are interconnected. So if we lose one of those strings, then all of this is going to fall apart. All the support of the ecosystems of biodiversity is going to fall apart. Therefore, I wanted to bring this, and I'm really glad specifically with the Ocean's Voice and with this organization.
You mentioned you said crimes. Do you mean ecological crimes or political crimes, or just tell us more about what you mean by that?
It's being about it's sort of a complex thing. About lack of regulations for protection of species. Yes.
And marine life and the species homes, habitats, I presume. Exactly.
Marine life, and we would like, well, we would like to bring up that this could be, and must be an issue of collaboration between nations. We are here also to promote that we all as countries, as a world, as one single planet, we must join forces. We must join issues and efforts so we can save this planet, which is our only hope. It's an only home.
Yes, absolutely. And that is the idea of bringing the world leaders together. Do you feel like that is possible there? It's always this hope that builds up before a COP. And then it's almost like as soon as everybody arrives, the officials start lowering expectations. You know, it's this almost predictable.
Right.
Does this one feel different though? I know you said COVID makes it a little bit different in terms of access indoors, but it's also it's got to be the largest in terms of attendance so far, and the urgency level has got to be way up there.
Well, I think is, from my perspective, from my point of view, when the world leaders arrived, everyone was with the hope that it can have like a change. But unfortunately, what we see is there are more words that explain a little bit about the importance that we need to do and the efficiency that we need to be to address the climate issue. But after it happens, the World Leaders Summit, the World Leaders Day, we saw everything completely the same. So the negotiations kept the same. The parties were following not an ambitious program or agenda. So that's something really unfortunate. And actually, for example, in the topic of ocean, there's not, from my government, for example, there was not anyone that could be specialized on low carbon or ocean topics, which I think is something that is really important to consider, because in terms of biodiversity, there's just one person taking care, or maybe two people taking care of the topic of biodiversity, which it shouldn't be like that because it's so complex. And we need to have more people specialized on topic of low carbon, on topic of ocean, and they can address in the negotiation this week.
Are you saying that they didn't send any ocean experts there representing Mexico?
As we questioned and we were talking with a delegation, they have people that have a little experience in the topic of ocean, that they know what it is about, the importance, but not as an expertise. So that's what I mean.
Knows none with the scientific background, you're saying?
Mm-mm.
No. Well, are you two studying to be scientists, I hope? We need you.
I am a scientist, so formally, yes, I'm keen to encourage people to look more into the scientific perspective, into the scientific field. And yes, science should be the core of all these decisions that we are making for the planet, for the future.
Wonderful.
Well, I will study law and then, yes.
Yeah.
I will study the law and then international law. And what I want to do is have the collaboration between the scientists and also the politicians, because sometimes it's a little bit separated because of the languages are not the same and they're not really in communication. So what I want to bring up is the communication between each one of them. So I would not be a scientist, but I would also have the communication and collaboration between each of us.
And Melissa, sorry, you are a scientist. I thought you were a graduate student to become that. Congratulations. Is it the climate crisis that motivated you to pick this specialty? And if so, what were you studying before this made you decide to commit to this area?
Yes, excuse me. Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, was it the climate crisis?
Sorry.
Was it the climate crisis that put you on track to become a scientist, or were you already going to be and you decided to focus on climate sciences in particular?
Well, since I knew about the extension of Vaquita Marina, I started to commit more into the environment. And then later on, I realized how the climate crisis was becoming in those years an issue. And well, currently it is the greatest threat to humanity and to all the existence of the species. So yes, part of this climate anxiety, let's call it this way, also encouraged me to, instead of just being afraid and scared about it, do something about this whole topic. Yes.
That's the best way to deal with despair, right? Is to act in whatever way you can. You're so moved, you're so trained, go get training. You know, we need everybody. I always encourage everybody to look, whatever they're doing, if they're already in a career, to put a green twist on it, see how they can make it a little more environmentally focused, whether they're a lawyer, a doctor, a nutritionist, a journalist in my case, or
totally.
When I speak to young people, high school and college students, I give them good news and they're always surprised. Wait, good news? You're talking to us about the environment and climate? I say, yes, because you're on the cutting edge, the leading green edge, because whatever you choose, there's going to be job security for your lifetime, because we have so far to go. We're here in terms of sustainability and here farther, but you won't see my hands if I do this, you know, and in this generation, so much has to change in our energy systems, our economic systems, our thinking, our consciousness.
Absolutely.
I want to add something in what you said that is really important, is that also the collaboration between adults and the youth is really important and is necessary, because what I have the privilege, I'm a person with a lot of privilege, because when I went to the COP25, I was privileged to have an advisory board and an advisory from adults that had experience and technical experience that can help me to also have a strategy that I can take and COP. And all the youth needs this because that can help us to have a more efficient participation in this complexity of methodology that is taking in COPs.
And I would add tradition and relationships between different ages and between different nations, because again, this is just one planet. This is our only house. The only hope is in us, in action.
Absolutely. And we know from Greta and other youth activists from around the world that the problems that we have had in the United States in terms of bringing leaders to making them responsible for their actions or lack of actions has been a big problem. And just bringing, in my background, news media, to really cover the ecological collapse of our systems in the true sense of an emergency and crisis as it all is. And it's only now starting to happen. I have been for 25 years reporting on environmental issues and have been treated like it's a side niche issue, like it doesn't get the respect that other areas get. Oh, you're just doing the green thing. Good for you, Betsy. Like it's my little pet passion, my personal interest. And let's hope that changes. Have you had similar experiences, even though you're a different generation, and hopefully, in the last few years, you're seeing much more awareness, but I've watched it go from almost zero to something, but still not nearly enough. And by that, I'm talking about political action, media leadership, and just general public awareness.
Totally. As you just had said, I would add from zero to hero. You might have heard that already.
Or Shiro.
Yes, exactly. So we need to become heroes of this planet, of this crisis. We should join forces. We should collaborate, because this is a real threat, not just to the ecosystems, but also, from my perspective, to our health. And so we need to protect it. If we don't want more pandemics to happen and to threaten all these processes, which is just a vicious cycle, then we should take care of the planet's health. So it is better for us.
And also adding for what they said is, I totally understand what you're happening in the judge that you may have about the green thing, because that also happened to us. It's something that we are also passing through. Actually, we made a research in my school in which how many students were activists in the topic of environment, and just the 10% of students were activists on the topic of environment. They were not aware of what was happening. And actually, I was the first person in my city, the first youth in my city to come to go to these COPs. So for them was something that they didn't know it existed. It exists. So that's something that we as youth, and also we have the responsibility to show and to tell them that, hey, this conference exists, and not only this conference, but also after COPs, we need to do something. And even though for you is something green, we need to show them what will be the consequences if we don't follow and we don't come together for the same cause.
And why do you think, I guess my generation, but in your countries, your culture, have been so bad at putting the most important subject area, up where it belongs? Like, if we don't get this right, nothing's going to be good. And yet it's been treated, as sort of an afterthought. It being planetary survival of humanity and all living creatures. It's an odd thing. And I guess I always thought it was somewhat American, just because we have this, in our DNA, it's all about individual freedoms and, liberty and to do whatever we like. And we have these crazy people who won't wear masks or get vaccinated or believe climate science. I hope it's not that bad in Mexico or Germany. I don't think it is, but it sounds like you're not immune from some of these, having these blinders on either.
I think it's because of education, and we are lacking of environmental education of quality, let's say by that, because I will say an example that happened in my state. I also made a research where not a kind of research, but I was noticed something 3 years ago I went to a town that was 3 hours from my city. And there we noticed that like 60 young people that were going to the same school, to the same class with the same teacher. And we're talking about 17 years old students to 3 years old students having the same class. So you notice the lack of education that we might have, and the accessibility and education of quality that we might have. So that's really hard to also change the mindset of the people if they don't have previously this humanity and also the environmental, how can I say, relationship that maybe we, Melissa and myself, we had.
Yeah, exposure to different kinds of thinkers and thinking. And it's, I mean,
Yes.
and it shouldn't be just relegated to an environmental studies class, right? It has to be woven into all of life, as our planet is essential to all of our lives. And I hope I mean, now, and there's finally coverage. This is the first COP where I've seen, CNN and MSNBC and all those networks we have here, covering it more than the first day and the last day. Not enough, mind you, and that's why we have Green TV, by the way. We pick up where the news networks leave off, which is okay, we must act, we must change. This is a code red for humanity. This is the existential threat of our lifetimes and maybe a few lifetimes. And yeah, we should treat it as such, and we should cover it, not every now and then, but like a main meal, not an afterthought. And hopefully that's beginning to change, because that disproportional, coverage has been a big part of the problem for people thinking if it was such a big problem, it would be on as much as COVID is. And COVID came and they changed their coverage, in the case of our cable news networks, from politics to the pandemic. But guess what was missing? And I think still is, perhaps you agree. One of the big takeaways should be that, one, it's a small world, everything's interconnected. Two, that nature is the boss. We need her much more than she needs us or wants us. And three, that there is an environmental angle to this pandemic and to COVID and to future pandemics. It's about our destruction of wildlife habitats and species being able to live, close proximity to us and to each other. And I don't know if that message really is out there yet. What do you think?
I think there is a little bit of a lack of empathy between some nations, not all of them, because some others have been waking up and realizing that, yes, indeed, we are all interconnected and this is all affecting us, but it is affecting us differently.
Right.
It's not going to affect this climate crisis the same for a person who lives in Germany versus somebody who lives in India, somebody who lives in Africa, in any of the countries from Africa.
Or an island nation, a small island nation.
Or any island.
Caribbean
islands.
Yeah.
Mexico is one of the countries who's going to be highly threatened, or it's already been threatened by climate change. Therefore, we are here to act. We are here to bring some empathy to the people and to the countries out there who need to strengthen their NDCs, need to higher their climate expectations, their climate strategies to help and also influence a lot into the loss and damage coverage for all these nations that are really vulnerable to climate change.
And are you having the extreme weather events to the degree that we have seen in this country and places like Greece with the fires and the Arctic fires and Brazil? There's been certain spots around the world in the last couple of years that have been hard hit, but everyone is vulnerable. It's all coming for all of us. But what has been the case in Mexico as far as deadly extreme weather events?
I think as all the countries, the message is out, and we know what will happen, and we know the consequences. But the interests that each country has are really complex, and each one of them has his own interests and really adapted to the country. So sometimes it's really hard to change the mindset. For example, in a country from the Oriental country, they were talking about not following human rights. So that's something like really impressive. And that's something that they were taking a lot of time trying to figure out how to sign an article because of a paragraph that said about human rights. So we have a lot of pressure and a lot of limitations because of each country has its own interests, and that's really complex to have everything, like really everyone really happy and try to follow everything, but we need to do it, because if not, there's no way that we can have a difference and we can have a results that we want to follow, that is the 1.5 degrees.
What about access to
That is
food
why
and
negotiations
water
happen.
supplies?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, I was just asking about food and water supplies. Is that a concern? You know, in the west coast of the United States, we've had terrible drought, and you know, there were towns that were close to trucking water in, and then we had big monsoon rain, but overall in a drought, extended years of drought. Is that happening in Mexico too?
In Mexico, at least in my state, we are having seasons of drought, extreme drought. So with this, water scarcity is becoming an issue, a real issue, because despite of the fact that we might have rain, we do not have enough water resources that are well and suitable for human consumption. Therefore, we need to enhance. We need to on how to make better way that it is not a polluted water. Well, with this also with of work.
We're getting a little bit of interference, a little bit hard to hear you, some of that. I think we got most of it, but your battery is charged, right? You're good. I don't want to lose. We're not going to go too much longer, but everything good? Because all of a sudden you just were sounding a little far away. Okay, good. So, and I interrupted you when I was asking about the extreme weather in Mexico. I'm not sure which one of you was speaking, but was there something more that we were talking about you'd like to add before I go to the next question?
Yes, actually, I want to add that, for example, in my state, what is happening, we're talking regarding mangroves, and what was happening is that there's a construction on a lot of mangroves, and we have lost approximately 50% of mangroves in 50 years, for example, in my city. So that's something that is happening. And also we can see a lot of issues happening in my city that are, there are a lot of sargassum, and there's a lot of decomposition of sargassum in the ocean that are passing like through a process of acidification and are affecting the corals. So for example, we are losing really big amounts of percentage of corals in the Caribbean because of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, these are the issues that I know that are happening in my city.
And is it the cultivation of shrimp farms? Is that part of the reason for the mangrove loss? Because I know that's the case in parts of Asia.
It's more about the construction and the touristic, because in my city, Cancun, there's a lot of tourism. So the construction in my city is really big. They want to continue.
And you have so much tourism along the coast. I'm sure there should be a lot of concern about rising sea levels.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
So let's turn to what's happening in Glasgow. And there's been incredible, activism, tens of thousands of people on the streets, not just Glasgow, but around the world over the weekend and so far. And what did that feel like to be marching with fellow Earthlings who were of all ages, but I suspect quite a few closer to your age than mine? Or maybe not, maybe not all ages there. Tell us what it feels like to be there in the streets.
I really feel, I've been covering some of the climate injustice cases directly from the people that come here to tell their stories. And it is really energizing and feels so powerful just to be outside there, knowing that the real solution, it's in the people, not in the leaders, but bringing up again that hope that and it's all just going to be together with collaboration, with empathy, with enthusiasm, and with happiness. Yes.
And also, in addition to what my colleague already said, is good governance is necessary. So, for example, my opinion is that we need each one of us. We need the leaders. We need us. We need civil society. We need the private sector. We need the educational sector. We need everyone. So when I see and when I'm part of the march, and when I see other people that are having maybe working for the same thing is really inspiring. And for example, being an activist and environmental activist sometimes it's really hard, and you need to continue, and sometimes it's as my colleague said, is a lot of anxiety that goes on. But seeing other people that are doing the same makes you understand the importance, and makes you understand that it's not only also country, people from all around the world, consequences of climate change that makes you you should keep trying. And also climate change that does not understand about climate change, to make them understand the importance about being part of the solution, and not only about words, not only about saying good words and inspiring words, but also about acting.
Action is what's needed. Action, real action from us, from the government, all together.
Do you anticipate that this will be the focus of your lives, or professional lives, maybe personal lives too, because it is hard to separate it. There's, once you know what you know, it's hard to, my family will tell you for me to turn it off. And then we'll wrap up because it sounds like we're getting some interference, but just last thoughts.
Actually, yes, I think I will continue with this, because this is not a decision, this is a lifestyle. And we need to show that this is a lifestyle. And even though you're studying whatever you want to study, your lifestyle will, and also saving their planet will need to continue. And yeah, I think I will continue.
And I would also say that the people has the power. So we need to make the transformation from our inner selves, and then make it contagious and make it real. We need real action. We need action from the people. So that's where we will be acting. And okay, this part is done. This is over.
I'll leave you with this thought. I say I have an environmental illness. I can't stop thinking about our embattled environment. So we need to infect everybody with it. What?
That is called eco-anxiety, and we all have it, and therefore we use this to make it happen, to make climate action. That's what we are here for.
It's the best cure, and it's a double cure, because first of all, it takes your focus off the negative feelings into action and purpose, living a purpose-driven life. And it also is real world action that then infects other people with this environmental illness, which we must turn to epidemic, right? Everybody, because then we can sleep better. If other people are working on it too, we won't have to feel so alone. But here's the good news, guys. We're not alone. You're not alone. The world has woken up. Thank you, Mother Nature, for making it impossible to ignore you, right?
Thank you. And thank you so much once again for this opportunity and for the space. We need more of this. We need spaces to speak up and make more awareness about what's happening, and especially about the solutions. Well, because there are solutions. We just need to put them in practice.
Green TV is all about solutions. That's what I did 25 years on my green radio shows, sound solutions for a healthier planet and people. And we really want to build it out to be 24/7 World Wide Web. So tell people to go to greentv.com and to subscribe, because the more subscribers we get, the sooner we can expand our coverage. So it's not just me.
Yes, and thank you so much. I want also to say that we're one planet, one ocean, and one voice, and we're all in this together. Thank you.
Right. And we all love life. This precious planet will not be replaceable. And I don't care how many billionaires go to how many planets, it's just not gonna, it's not gonna suffice. So let's send their billions back here first, then they can go play with Mars or whatever they want to do.
Exactly. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And also synchronize COP26.tv if you want to get the other perspective of what's happening inside COP. There we bring all the human voices, all the voices from around the world, saying their perspective and bringing up solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go forth and greenify and use your voices and your beautiful faces and your activism to get everybody that you can reach involved, because it will take all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your time there. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.